We're just living more of
Good evening and welcome to the City Commission meeting for May 27th, 2021. It's a little after 6, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd ask you to stand while Ralph Lopez gives the invocation and I lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's bow our heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we just want to thank you today, Lord, for this beautiful day that we had. Thank you for the rain we've received, Lord, and just thank you for all your blessings. We ask you to watch over us, Lord, as we come and go from our meetings and just continue to watch over us. We ask that you help us do your will, Lord, in this meeting and at all times. We ask all this in Jesus' name. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And I will say our pledge, and the flag is back at the back. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Duplantis.
Here.
Commissioner Moya.
Here.
Commissioner Gamera.
Here.
Commissioner Arias.
Here.
Mayor Litchfield.
Here. Are there any considerations of changes or deletions to the agenda?
No, ma'am.
I would entertain them.
I do
Oh,
have
you
one.
do, okay.
We have, item 8A, which I believe is
Annual budget.
it is the annual budget, but I think it's repetitive for the resolution 2021-17.
Okay.
Is that right, Mark? I think there should be 2 items there.
I'm not sure to tell you the truth.
Michelle, did you hear anything?
Yeah.
No. Oh, she's coming. Okay.
I think so the resolution was supposed to be removed on the.
I'm gonna have to take his pen away. And it wasn't even Alvis.
So we can remove 8A and the resolution, because we already discussed it.
Okay.
C. 6C.
6C. All right.
Madam Mayor, I'm making a motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
Do I have a second?
Still second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Moya.
Yes.
Commissioner Gamera.
Yes.
Commissioner Arias.
You on? Yeah, he's there. Can you hear us, Commissioner Arias?
I do apologize, I was muted, yes.
Mayor Litchfield.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Duplantis.
Yes.
Next on the agenda is public comments. Citizens wanting to speak during this time must sign up prior to the start of the meeting. Public comments is an opportunity for citizens to comment on non-agenda items. This is not for discussion nor questions and answers. Citizens will be given 3 minutes to speak. And we have David Brenner. Would you come up to the podium, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commission. Good evening. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you momentarily. I'd like to commend the Commission for so expeditiously filling the Lodgers Tax Board after the recent round of the expiration of terms. I'm going to continue to put my name in the hat each time there's an opportunity. I'm proud of the tenure that I put on the Lodgers Tax Board. I do want to make a clarification to perhaps some people's recollection of the way I left the board after my tenure. I had been on the Lodgers Tax Board for 4 years, and at that time I realized after doing a reading of the bylaws that I should have only been there for 2 years. So I resigned at that time, and to give others an opportunity to have their input on that board. So yes, that was nice. And I think that there was a comment made at the last meeting that I was upset and left the board. That's not how that happened. I did hear about an event where the commission had approved funding for a particular organization that the Lodgers Tax Board did not think should have been funded. And at that time, I had a little bit of a flipper mark about it. So I apologize for that. But anyway, during my tenure, I did receive this award, exemplary board member, presented to David Brenner in recognition of distinguished service to the citizens of Tucumcari back in 2017. I would love the opportunity to earn another one of these. And in the meantime, I would like to let everybody know that Roadrunner Lodge Motel that I own and operate is the official lodging establishment for the class of 1980 for this year's Tucumcari Rattler reunion. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you for your service. There's not any others, that's all. So next is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is approved by a single motion. Any member of the commission may request an item be transferred to the regular agenda from the consent without discussion or vote. And first is the approval of the commission work session notes for May 13th. Second would be approval of the commission meeting minutes for May 13th. So there'll be the work session and commission meeting for May 13th. I would entertain a motion to accept these on the consent agenda.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Villanueva?
Yes.
Commissioner Arias?
Yes.
Mayor Litchfield?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Duplantis?
Yes.
Commissioner Moya?
Yes.
Next on the agenda is discussion items. Discussion with property owners along the 2nd Street project. You are out. Who's going to do this?
Mr. Romero?
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Romero. Oh, there it is.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor, Commission, for having us out tonight. I'm sure all of you know the property owners along 2nd Street, Main Street that are adjacent to this project have had some concerns through the whole, the extent of the project. And we wanted to bring our concerns forward and see, or hear from the commissioners too. You know, we've had property damage done to some of our properties, and I personally have addressed this with the contractor, and to no avail. I've gone as far as contacting the city, and they did come out at one point when I actually caught them right in the middle of doing some work along our parking lot where they had kicked up some curbs that are on Luba and my property. So there's been damage done, I think, to several of the properties, and we're asking that the commission hold back on paying the contractor any more money until damages can be assessed and taken care of. You know, they've been working out today. It's coming along, I guess, okay. I can't stay out there all day long to keep an eye on things, but you know, we all have concerns. There's a couple other property owners here. Some of the other ones couldn't make it tonight, but we wanted to bring forth our concerns and hear from you all to see how you may feel about that project. So I'll entertain any kind of questions or anything that you may have right now.
One thing I would like to say, we're as frustrated as you are, believe me. So City Manager Martinez, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to meet with some of the business owners. I know Mr. Lopez has fielded some of the concerns as well. All of these concerns have been relayed to the engineer. The consistent answer that I seem to get back, and I think Mr. Lopez could vouch for it, is most of these are punch list items. And what that means at the end of the project, when they come through for their final inspection, they'll go through and they'll address each of those individual concerns at that time. I don't agree with that. I get that's common practice on how things happen in the construction industry. But it is disappointing if they do damage or dirty the different properties like they have. I think it's only fair that they go through and fix it at that time. Again, I don't want to point the finger and blame on certain things, but I do wish that the engineer was a little bit more aggressive at times. Ultimately, they are the main contact point between us as the person contracting them and the contractor doing the work. It is disappointing. It does look bad in certain areas. We have leaned on the engineer for their expertise. That's what we pay them to do. And we have got into some other things I won't elaborate on during the meeting, but there has been a lot of disappointment on that. We feel that everything should have been, one second, let me mute this person real quick. It is disappointing the way things have progressed. I know the city personally has stood up for not only ourselves, but our citizens in an effort to get the entire asphalt ripped up. Based on my knowledge, and Ralph, please correct me if I'm wrong, based on their professional expertise, they feel that the contractor could still meet the specifications and pass what was outlined in the construction documents. It's not our place to give them a means and methods approach on how they do their job, as long as it meets the specifications. We were rejected in the request when we did request to have the entire asphalt pulled up. Certain areas did pass inspection and testing, and it was the contractor's response that they want to cut and replace the areas that did not pass. The engineer did feel that that was acceptable, so we needed to proceed. This has drug on way too long. We need to get this project completed, the street open again for the business owners in the area, and let everybody enjoy the area as they used to. With that being said, I don't agree with the recommendation, how things went, but I'm not sure how that would stand up in court if we didn't particularly have people we've hired stepping up to bat for us. So there has been some disappointment across the board. As we are all aware, we've been discussing budget and other things within the past couple of days. I do not have an update of what's been going on since they've been out there the past few days. So Mr. Lopez, if you don't mind trying to maybe give an update on what they've been completing recently and where we're going as far as timeline.
Yes, sir. Today they did put the second layer of pavement down. We actually have the engineer, we hired them additional funds to have them keep somebody on there full time to observe the construction. I went out there a little bit this morning, and what I saw looked pretty good compared to what we've been seeing in the past. So I do have some concerns about the longevity of it, but we're talking in terms of maybe extending the warranty from the typical 1-year warranty that we normally get on a construction project. That was one of the things that was offered as part of their, trying to make it right. I mean, the contractor knows that they had a lot of problems out there. Like Mr. Martinez says, we really had to try to push the engineer to push them a little harder than we should have had to. But I think in the end, we're going to get a pretty good project out of it. Now, I do want to say that the owners along there, their items are being cataloged as they've been shown to me, but at the end of the project, or at least after the end of the substantial completion, we plan to go do a walkthrough and get all the punch list items and document them, send it out in a letter that they get those fixed before they leave the project. We have several ways to hold them to that. Of course, we have their bonding. We also can hold back a percentage of their final payment, which we are doing right now anyway. We haven't paid them, I guess, since after the first layer of asphalt was placed. Contractually, there's certain things we can do and there's some that we can't, but we plan to stay on them and make sure it's completed to our satisfaction.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to address just a moment about the engineering. I understand the engineer company had sent a 30-page document to the city outlining the areas that the contractor did not meet the specifications. So I don't think it's quite fair to say, well, the engineers didn't let them off the hook and all these things. I think they documented all that. Ralph, I'd like to ask for sure, you're gonna hold back money from them? You haven't paid them since Christmas?
Yeah, I think we have one since Christmas. We haven't paid them since the asphalt. Without having my notes in front of me, well, I know Mark doesn't want to go into the details on the legal issues, though. We actually.
So the first layer of asphalt was laid during the Christmas holiday weekend,
Mhm.
kind of under the guise of darkness, so that tells you what's been going on in the project over there. We have lots of damages. It's been 11 months now. Our business has been closed on that street, and we're not getting any help from anybody. So, I don't know when they're gonna finish this thing up, but we want to be sure that our repairs are taken care of, because they've damaged us all.
Right, we understand that.
Do we have your all's commitment that we're not going to pay them and let them leave? They've damaged city property too, Mayor. I mean, the parking lot where their stack lot here will never be the same unless you all make them repave it.
Can I say something?
Sure, I was gonna call on each one of you.
Okay. I'm with y'all. I don't think we should pay them anything because I don't trust anybody that gets paid before they get the job done. And completing the job consists of, one, the cleanup, and if there's any damages done to the properties. And that's any job. You hire any kind of contractor. My experience, and I try not to do this anymore, is when I paid my contractors to do a job for me and the job wasn't done, it never got done. And I would just, my personal belief is we withhold everything till it's completed. I don't know for sure how far we've gone into this contract. If it's one payment, then they don't need to get paid till the job's done.
Legally, there's only so much we can retain. The agreements that we use are state agreements, and they set how much we can retain. On this one, I can't remember if it's 10 or 15%. We have to pay them contractually for the work that they've done. Up till the last payment is the only one that we can hold retainage on. And it's either 10 or 15%, which is the industry standard for retainage. That we can hold over them. We also have the ability to go after their bonds, which requires another legal battle like we already did on this thing too. So there's some stuff we can do. It's not like a contract, like to do your personal business and stuff. We're statute by the state how we can handle this contract.
What's 15% of what we've agreed to pay them?
It's
15% of the payment or 15% of what?
I don't remember, so I'll have to look that up. I don't think it's 15% of the entire contract. I think it may be 15% of an equally distributed payment across the whole project. I'd have to look that up. I don't remember, sir. But we do have some recourse, but we can't just stop paying them, though it'd be illegal for us to do that, so.
Well, I'm a fighter. I say we do whatever we can to, until this job's done.
We are, sir. We're on it all the time, so.
I'm behind the business people on
Okay.
this. Who owns, is that city, that parking lot city, or is that owned privately owned?
The one where they're storing their equipment, city, the one that they've also damaged is Minister Romero's parking lot.
I knew that, I just couldn't, I seen your pictures before and I wasn't sure which portion of the parking lot.
Roughly 2/3 of that parking lot, my wife and I own.
Okay.
So, there's a little sidewalk right there that kind of splits the property line right there. I've kind of lost my train of thought, but going after bonding is personal experience is very, very difficult. And I know the city can pursue the bond on the project for not completing the project or for the bad work or whatever. But it kind of leaves private property owners in limbo because we need to know, Is the city gonna help us out? If not, then we're gonna have to pursue the bond ourselves, and that's crazy. So just kinda, I wanted to throw that out there just so you all can keep that in mind too, that we'd rather have the city chase that down if that's the route that's gonna be taken for all of us. And, otherwise, it's gonna be almost impossible.
Is there any way we can start, I won't say proceed, because that's kind of putting the cart before the horse, but start being proactive on this in some form? As far as, well, are we keeping a running total of the damages?
So like, again, all of the concerns that have been filtered either through myself or Mr. Lopez have been submitted by writing in email to the engineer. They have a running tab of what's going on. What will happen when they come to the punch list item, they'll go back, they'll review the video that was taken before the construction began and compare it to what the concerns were that had arisen throughout the project. And we're definitely holding their feet to the fire. We're gonna make sure, like Mr. Lopez said, we cannot retain a large portion or a full pay application. And we can't, it's illegal for us to pay for services in advance without receiving them, so we're not paying them in advance or anything. The thing is, I understand the frustration, but we've met with the engineer, we made it clear, before that final distribution that's retained at the end is paid out. All punch list items, which include all of the concerns, must be completed. They want to do it at the end of the project instead of doing it as it occurred. They're going to come through and clean up all at one time at the end. That's the proposal.
And I know this has been a time-consuming thing even before they started work. When was this supposed to be completed?
Long time ago.
Okay. From the time they started, not from the time they started getting the grants, but from the time they started, what was the time frame they gave us that this was going to be completed?
From memory, I think the original agreement was in March, but we've extended it.
January 11th.
Okay, I stand corrected, so. But we've had it, pushed it back several times by change order, some of it for additional work and some of it for rain delays. We've had to push it back, or weather delays, it wasn't always rain. And then other ones, through our legal actions and stuff, we gave them more time to try to get the project completed instead of spending all of our time in court. So, yeah, it's moved several times.
Because that's actually something that should be looked at too, because my own business.
Again, without going into too many details, we did delay the process by getting attorneys involved. And that did delay the construction time because we did not allow them to move forward with construction until we got a clear direction on how things were going to go. Once we got our legal counsel's recommendation, we moved forward, we talked things out. We did allow them to extend the time period some more for that. And ultimately, nothing was ever in writing, just kind of common talk was to recover liquidated damages, and the way things have played out, it wasn't in our favor at that time. There have been some other rain delays since then, so we understand, again, this should have been done a long time ago. I don't remember the exact dates to substantial completion, but that's always something we can pursue, but things have been moving somewhat fluidly since that time, with the exception of those rain delays.
I've got one other question. It was stated that a video was taken pre-construction. Was that just of the project area, or is that of the surrounding properties? Because my concern is, as Mr. Lopez knows, is that they've run their heavy equipment across that parking lot. Even though I've been after them from the very start of the project, they've done it and continue to do it. And if that wasn't included in the video, there's not going to be a way to show the differences.
To prove the damage, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So,
Do you have one?
Our engineer is actually the one that did the video, so I've not seen what they have. I don't know how far they reached out. Typically, we get the details of the street, the whole the construction area, and then they typically pan a little bit, but I can't guarantee that they got as far as the extent of his property. So So that remains to be seen. We'll have to just quantify the damage as we go visually and try to determine if it was pre-construction or caused by the contractor, which is more likely. So we'll just have to do that as a punch list item as we go along. So some of it's pretty obvious, so.
You know, as Carlos said, we've asked them to stay off of our lots over and over and over for a year now. Last Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock, they were driving their pneumatic roller across my parking lot. I have a video of it. I told you to.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
No response from the engineer.
And we have told them numerous times in writing to stay off private property, and the workers on site cannot seem to do that. We have it in writing and by their logged phone calls where they told their contractors on site to stay off there, but they keep doing it. So they've been told from us to the engineer to the contractor to their project manager down, and it doesn't seem to work. So I'm not sure how we do that.
That's ridiculous that they're not following that. Commissioner Moynihan,
Mark, what can we,
excuse me. Go ahead, Commissioner Arias.
thank you, Mayor. Mark, what can we do to address that? I mean, it's been noted several times and just their workers aren't responding. I mean, there's a serious lack of communication on their end between them and their people, or simply the people don't care.
My assumption is their people do not care because Ralph and I have both been out there whether it's the truth or not, their project manager has claimed that he's told his own employees and stated it's out of his hands, he can't control it. If they don't listen to him, then he can't do anything pretty much.
Well, yeah, he can. He could. So, yeah.
And at the walkthrough here a few weeks ago, I brought that issue up and I was told, you know, you should fence them out. And this is my parking lot, so I should fence them out of my parking lot. I don't even know how to answer to something like that.
Right, that's an extra expense on you anyway.
Well, I wouldn't fence up anyway.
Right. I was wondering if CJ, if there's any way you could put some kind of barrier up so they couldn't get on there, but.
Well, then if we did that, then it stops our customers from getting on there too.
True,
Yeah.
true.
So.
But I meant after work, after 5 o'clock.
Oh, this was like at 4:45. I mean, they were
Oh,
driving through the parking lot.
yeah,
Yeah. I called Ralph. He knows it.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah, it's been documented in writing, so.
okay. Commissioner Moyen, anything?
Well, I went through the walkthrough and I just got there, but one of the biggest problems I had was the gentleman who was in charge had a bad attitude. And I think that when you have somebody like that with a bad attitude, it tends to not be a workable situation, because I had just got there and I was trying to get informed of what was happening, and he started with some of the people that had come by. And one of the biggest things he said, well, we can't do our work if everybody's trying to tell us how to do the construction work. And actually, you know, we exchanged work because I told him, you know, the whole deal is they're not telling you what to do. They're just concerned about what's happening. I said, and the thing that really irked me was his attitude was pretty negative. And the whole deal is you can't work with people who have that type of attitude. It just aggravates the poor people who are trying to keep their business and their property from getting damaged. And so that was my biggest complaint with him. And I told him, you know, if you'd have done the work right, we wouldn't be having these problems for 11 months. And we didn't give it there, Mark. We have changed works because of the fact that I didn't know what was going on. And he was jumping on people for no reason, you know, and I just told him. The other thing I noticed was our engineers that we hired as consultants are not aggressive enough. And I felt very, it was difficult for me to have all these areas pointed out, and they just kind of like talk to themselves, but don't really explain to the people that are going around on the walk, you know? I mean, there was an area on, I think, the CJ's parking lot where they had like a drain, but it sunk down. which is kind of like, I think they said a half an inch or something like that. You were there, Ralph, weren't you?
Yes, sir.
Down, which creates a dangerous, because if somebody stumbles, they go after the property owner. That's his problem, or the city. Well, no, not necessarily the city. They go after the property owner because the sidewalk is considered to be part of the property. And you know, we have had lawsuits where, people who are, stumble on somebody's, front sidewalk.
Right.
Sue their owner. So, I felt they were good people, don't get me wrong, but they were not assertive enough. And the other thing is, and nothing against you, Ralph, you do your job really good and everything else, but they keep relying on Ralph to okay things when they're the engineers with the expertise and the license. They're the ones who should say, no, it's not that, it doesn't meet specs, no, you know, don't be asking. I mean, that's why we pay them, you know, because we're not engineers, we don't have the license, we're not the expertise in that area. And so I told the engineers, I said, it's not fair that you're trying to get Ralph to agree on some of these things. I said, when you were the one getting paid to be the engineer, and you're the one who say, no, that's not appropriate, that's not the way to go. I mean, I'm not an engineer or contractor, but that doesn't take much to understand. I did feel that attitude just has raw bad against everybody, because I didn't never been there but one time, and he brought me real bad when I just got there, and I was trying to figure out what was going on the wall. So, yeah, we do have problems, and it might have been started with the attitude, because sometimes if we work with the landlord, people are very, you know, they want to work, they want to get things settled, they don't want to create a lot of problems, and I think that's all we would have taken. I know at the end of the line, and this is a reality factor, is the fact is that a lot of it might be civil at the end, you know, and certainly that's costly for everybody, and that's not fair. But if we can do something with holding some of the funding until this thing is done, because it's not fair for Mr. CJ to have to pay a lawsuit that somebody stumbled on that draining thing, because it's according to their thing, it was half-inch off, and it was a little lump. So those things are very key factors, because that's going to have a reflection on the project.
I agree. On the liability standpoint, you hit the nail on the head, where contractually the engineer is the entity that deems the work defective. I respect that they ask for our opinion, but we should be getting something in writing. They should be stated, this is good. It doesn't matter if we agree with it or not. They need to make a recommendation to the city. That's what we paid them for. Is it allowable? If it's not, then you need to put it in writing, let us know. And then at that point, if it is deemed that it's okay, then still at that point, we have the right as a city to counter that and say, look, it may be, you may seem that it's acceptable, but it's not acceptable to us or community.
No.
And that's where things were lacking. They were putting it back on the city to deem whether or not it's defective, and that wasn't our place to do so.
No, it wasn't. And I saw that, and I was just there for about 45 minutes. I left.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Villanueva?
Well, I just want to apologize to you guys. I know it's hard, and hope they get it done as soon as possible and fix your buildings, you know. I think it's our downtown, it should look good. I've got a question for Mr. Ralph. What kind of warranty are they talking about now?
What kind of what, sir?
Warranty and stuff that.
We have a standard 11-month warranty that's outlined in the specifications. It's actually the state deems what we can replace and everything else. We typically at 11 months will do a walkthrough again with the engineer and representative from the contractor. And like I said, there's certain items that aren't covered, but the majority of what we have out there would be. And we'll just walk through, and then we'll do basically another punch list at that time, and they'll come and replace all that. And I don't know the extent of it. I've never had to use that warranty actually in 20-some years of doing this. But they can fix a certain amount of stuff. I don't know that we could make them do the whole project over again, but there are some things that can be corrected. So.
I
Okay.
hope it comes out better than what it used to be. It used to look like a cattle horse there. You know?
Yeah, and we're looking into it, which was offered by the contractor actually to extend the warranty based on some of our concerns. And you know, the way that was paved was not done right originally. It was originally called for a 3-inch mat in one pave, and instead they kind of snuck in on a weekend, ostensibly to beat the snowstorm, but they did it without testing, without supervision, and just basically slapped it in there.
You know,
And,
Christmas time.
there was poor work before that time, but that was kind of the icing on the cake as far as getting everything stopped and try to get corrected, so.
So on the punch list, if it's not done to the specifications that Mr. Romero and Mr. Weaver want, their buildings and their parking lots and things, what happens then if it's not fixed correctly?
Again, my assumption that's gonna go back to the discretion of the engineer, whether or not it was completed based on the video or what they deem as acceptable. But ultimately, the city could steer in a certain direction.
So before we make the final payment and they've gone through the punch list or whatever it is, if it's not done to, like they want it done or we want it done, can we withhold payment then until they do it correctly?
Yes, I believe so. I think we already.
To me, that's what it sounds like we need to do. If they don't fix everything to our specification and the property owner's specification, then until they do it correctly, they don't get paid. So, does that sound satisfactory or?
Well, like Ralph said, there'd be a percentile that we can hold, and I think we need to do that.
Right.
You know, we're under the contract of the state, so we just have to do what's fair for our property owners along there.
Right.
We will try and do everything we can. It's not right that, it's a project that has, like a never-ending time, you know, it's been going perpetual.
So I guess I didn't ever hear you say, what is their offer for the extension of the warranty?
We'd have to negotiate it. I heard as many as 2 to 3 years on it for the asphalt
Okay.
and everything else, but it has to be negotiated.
I think the longer the better,
Yes,
because
sir.
if you saw, even when they've done the repaving today, last week, there was a point that it was really obvious down at Carlos's office. Rather than using a tamper to tamp the patch job, there were boot marks where they're actually stomping it down.
Oh.
That's how bad it is. Yeah, so it's really been bad. And so I'm afraid that what we're gonna have, it's pretty today. They did a top layer today, it's really nice. But I'm afraid in about 2 or 3 years, or a year, I don't know how long, who knows? But we're gonna begin to have potholes where those soft spots were,
Right.
because they didn't pack them correctly, so.
So how can we work on getting them? What can we do to get them to stay off their parking lots? That's what
Legally, I'm not sure there's anything the city can do other than what we've been doing. We've attempted numerous times.
Can we go down and yell at them?
Maybe
Get
once it happens, have the cops called and cite for trespassing or something.
I actually threatened that foreman last Friday afternoon that, they had driven the
Keep
steel,
doing it.
they had driven the steel wheel roller across my parking lot, and it's got a big crack in it now.
Oh, my
Yeah,
gosh.
so it's really severe. And I'm afraid their video is not gonna show that, because I'm
Yeah,
sure the
and
engineer
I'm not
didn't
sure.
think it was gonna happen 50 feet away when you were driving across the parking lot.
Yeah.
I guess the takeaway would be, I know the city has some more future paving projects coming up. I saw one coming up pretty soon, and I know the state legislature gave you guys some money for street repairs and stuff like that. I think that the takeaway for me, Mayor, would be, let's get on top of this, stay on top of it, and don't let this sort of thing happen. I don't know if that's Ralph's office or what it is, but it should never got to this point.
Well, just wanted to stand up and say essentially the same thing, so.
There hasn't been as much damage to my property as these gentlemen, but there are some of us that own small buildings, old buildings
Right.
on that street, that I'm glad that I took pictures of mine after I had something done to it in 2018, because it's very obvious that there was, damage done to it. It's not a huge extent, it's mostly cosmetic, but with our old buildings, it takes a lot to get them repaired.
Right.
And there's not a lot of people in town that want to do that anymore, so it's a little more costly than.
Thank you, Ms. Carter.
others.
We
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Appreciate your
Okay.
time.
Mark, we can't put barrels or something to go up there.
We can, they move them and go right through it. There's been people traveling up and down the street. I mean, Nobody pays attention to the
I know.
barricades.
I couldn't believe how much traffic was going up and down Second Street. Well, there was an RV that went right down when all that was still muddy, went right through there.
Well, I spoke with the CEO, who was actually out here today, I think on the little steel wheel, working on the project. I called him up the last time I caught him running equipment across. And he said, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it. I'll put up barricades. Well, I said, cool, great. Just stop them from going across. I went home. I had to come back to the building for something. And there they are, running equipment across. I called them up and I said, what's the deal? You said you were going to stop them. He goes, well, I thought I'd have till Monday anyway. I'm going, oh, come on.
Yeah.
That's how serious they're taking us up, all of us, all the way up the ladder. So just so you know, they may be telling their employees, but they're not emphasizing the importance of staying off.
So the one thing I can tell you, there's ways to go around this to make sure that if we're completely dissatisfied with the contractor, we'll never work with them.
Right.
There's processes where you can actually file paperwork to make sure that's fine. It's hard to come by nowadays to get people to bid on our projects, but we don't need people like that to be working on our projects anyhow.
Well, thank you all for coming and talking to us and keeping us updated.
Thank you for listening.
And we'll do what we can.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Okay, next on the agenda is ordinances and resolutions. 6A, ordinance 1159, the first reading and ordinance amending the official zoning district map. A part of ordinance 1052.
And I'll present that
Okay,
here. So, ordinance 1159 is an ordinance amending the official zoning district map. The applicant Cody Meyer proposed to rezone the property from C1 general commercial to residential 3 multiple family residential. That was approved by planning and zoning, and by statute and ordinance, we are required to bring it to the commission for a first reading and a second reading for adoption to change.
so this is the first reading, we don't act on it, correct?
Correct, but I needed just your all's blessing to publish my.
Let me ask you a question on this. This property is next to, remember that gentleman that came here?
Mr. Montes?
Yeah, Montes, and what was it? He wanted to make, was he wanting to go through this marsh or what? They were close, weren't they?
So I'll give some background. I was involved on both of those, and I also attended the planning and zoning meeting where they approved this, the recommendation. It was a different situation that Mr. Modis had requested.
He wanted to open the streets all the way to 104.
This particular applicant wants to rezone. That was not the same case as the previous applicant. And in doing so, this applicant also wishes to abandon and vacate some of the alleyways in the streets. So of course, what happens there, the adjacent property owners, they split it down the middle of the right of way of the street, and property goes back to each individual. This individual is requesting this to happen, so they're able to install a residence or multiple residences at some time. It makes more sense. It fits in with the surrounding. In my opinion, it doesn't fall within spot zoning. It fits more as a residential zone, honestly, than commercial. I think there may be intent way back when the official zoning map first came out. And based on the reports I heard from community development, as well as a recommendation from planning and zoning, I think it's very realistic and logical to go ahead and move forward with this.
Okay. So do we vote on it, or it's just a recommendation, so is it everyone
It's just
agree?
The voting will come.
Right, after the
board.
Okay,
And that will hold a public hearing where, at the time, the applicant can attend, and anyone with further questions could ask them at that
And
time.
so actually notice was sent to the surrounding neighbors? or what?
Yes, sir.
Because if they're gonna close some streets, and they need to be aware of it. And I know that 4th Street is the one that goes all the way west past the Chavez property. And I know this is the property on the north side, going 104, the brown houses, And then there's one lot that's owned by Mr. Macias, and then the rest is owned by Vivian Martinez. And they used to plant, so it's a
Yeah.
great property for residential. It'll combine with.
And that's what she's wanting to do, is move back.
Yeah.
And as we go into the second reading where we'll have the public hearing, there'll be some more documentation. There's actually some visual aids, some maps, and it shows exactly what's being requested to vacate. And it doesn't hinder anybody's access to property on the south end, or yes, on the south end. So it makes sense. It's been investigated.
Parallel to 104.
Correct. And they're not gonna have access through 104. They're planning on getting access. I can't remember. I think
Fourth
it was
Street is the
something.
one that has the access of her property.
Yes, sir.
So we're all in agreement to go ahead and
Yeah.
publish this. Okay. All right, next is resolution 2021-16. It's a resolution of sponsorship for a transportation project fund application.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. We are applying for Transportation Project Fund money from DOT. This is a grant that we got 2 years ago in the amount of $500,000. And it's one that they pushed through that's supposed to be real low paperwork and also low matching from the city. It's a 95% grant, 5% matching, and we also at the same time applied for a match waiver with this resolution. Sorry, I got the wrong page here. Part of the application process is to submit this resolution. It's due tomorrow. Along with the other, the project feasibility form and everything else to get this in. We still have several steps to get this through. We have to defend it and do a presentation, and it has to go through the rating and ranking with DOT. I'm pretty confident that we got it 2 years ago, and we have a good project this time as well. We are asking for a total project of $1 million this time with $952,381 as grant funding, and $47,619 would be the match if we are not granted the match waiver, which is done on a first come first served basis. So we're not guaranteed that match waiver, but we are trying for it on this project. So we're looking at doing a large area that's south of the boulevard. Duhoney is the main street from the boulevard to Rock Island. And then hopefully, depending on the funding that we get and the bids, how the bids come in on it, as many blocks as we can of the streets north and south of that. This area was chosen because this grant was released just like 3 weeks ago, or they let this grant. We do not have time to look for money to do the utilities beneath the street. So what we looked for was a street area that didn't have a lot of utilities underneath it that was in bad need of repair, and this one is. It's pretty rough, so we chose it based on that. So at this time, I'd stand for questions and ask for your approval.
Does anyone have any questions regarding this resolution?
No.
I would entertain them. Chris or Commissioner Arias, you have any questions?
No, ma'am, I do not. Thank you.
I would entertain a motion to accept resolution 2021-16.
I'll make a motion that we accept resolution 2021-16.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Arias,
Yes.
Mayor Litchfield,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Duplantis.
Yes.
Commissioner Moya.
Yeah.
Commissioner Villanueva.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is bids and contracts. Task order number 1 for the old landfill. Angelica, are you presenting this?
I committed by accident, but it's not.
I'll present.
That's not, okay.
This is a task order that we have to approve periodically. We contract with Park Hill Smith Cooper, and they are the entity, the engineer that actually handles all of our environmental monitoring for the old and new landfill. And each year, as prices go up, we have to approve these task orders, so it's continuing the groundwater monitoring and the reporting required for the old landfill as well as the new, and I think they're 2 separate items, correct?
Yes.
So this time I'd ask for your approval of task order number 1 for the old landfill.
Okay, do I have any questions, comments?
The only comment I have, do we, the land is kind of wasteful now that we have, it was pretty much covered over with a lot of dirt. Do you think we could ever utilize that for something?
I've tried to, there's certain requirements we have to abide by for NVD. I did try to potentially get some kind of solar farm out there. There's too much red tape and we decided not to do that. So for vegetation on it to reduce any kind of erosion. And for now, it's just kind of vacant space. But
It's a lot of it.
it is.
Weeds.
So this is my famous slide, but for record purposes, can we go through the amount of?
Yes.
chapter?
Yes. So the task order for the old landfill is $22,800 and no cents, which excludes MGRT.
Oh, yeah.
Do I have a motion to accept task order number 1 for the old landfill?
I'll make a motion that we accept the task order number 1 for the old landfill.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor Litchfield,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Duplantis,
Yes.
Commissioner Moya, Commissioner Villanueva, Commissioner Arias.
Yes.
Okay, next is task order number 1 for the new landfill.
Yes, ma'am. This is the same exact thing. It's just for the new landfill. The amount is $39,000 even, excluding GRT.
Okay. Any questions, comments? I'd entertain a motion to accept task order number 1 for the new landfill.
I'll make a motion that we accept task order number 1 for the new landfill.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Duplantis.
Yes.
Commissioner Moya.
Yep.
Commissioner Villanueva.
Yes.
Commissioner Arias.
Yes.
Mayor Litchfield.
Yes. Next on the agenda is the Tucumcari Fuel Farm State Agreement for design of a new fuel farm.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This is actually a grant that we had existing that was previously approved by this commission. We applied to NMDOT Aviation Division for an extension to this grant, and for some reason, and probably due to COVID problems, the state did not file it. So instead of just trying to rehash that one, they asked us just to submit a new agreement, basically. It's for the design of the fuel farm at the airport. The current one is in danger of being closed due to not meeting current specifications. And we're aggressively trying to replace it with a standalone fuel island that would let the customers come in and basically like a gas station, they can use their credit card, which we have that now, but this one would be all up to spec and be one self-contained unit. We have to do the design before we can even seek, we actually have to do the design and go out to bid before the federal FAA will fund it. So this design is already in progress. Actually, we're just catching up with the paperwork because of the error in not getting the extension filed originally. So it's in the amount of $125,023, which is, like I said, had been previously approved, but this lets us continue with the design and pay the engineer. At this time, I'd like to stand for questions and ask for your approval.
Okay, anyone have questions?
We went over this before.
All right, I'd entertain a motion to accept Tucumcari Fuel Farm State Agreement for design of a new fuel farm.
I'll make a motion we accept the Tucumcari Fuel Farm State Agreement for design of a new fuel farm.
Do I have a second?
Second, Mayor.
I'll second.
We got 2 seconds, so there we go.
That's
We're good, we're good to go. So, roll call, please.
Commissioner Moya.
Yep.
Commissioner Villanueva.
Yes.
Commissioner Arias.
Yes.
Mayor Litchfield.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Duplantis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda. Don't put that extra page in again. And, don't put that extra
I
page
am
in.
so sorry.
No.
I was laughing.
That's all
I'm
right.
not sure how it happened.
That's okay. We understand. We all do that. All right, so next on the agenda is new business. Pardon?
The copies were already done.
I know.
realized it.
I don't know, that's all right. I have to give you a hard time about something. Is approval of the application for the lodger's tax funding assistance for special events.
Can we do it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I was gonna go ahead and let Mayor Pro Tem Duplantis give an update as liaison on what was proposed by the Lodgers Tax Board, and then we'll go from there.
First, I want to thank the business owners from Lodgers Tax and the individual that's an employee of, that's the citizen that represents the board for taking the time out of their day to sit down and go through this. This is probably the worst meeting of the year for Lodgers Tax. You're not going to please everybody, and what ends up at the end, is never satisfactory for everybody. So I actually, and I don't want to say I stepped outside the box, but I'm going to present two other options other than what they have for the commission. And I'm going to turn it over to the commission to do this. I know we like to try to support our Lodgers Tax board with any advice that comes up. One of the things I brought up, well, I'm going to present option A, which is exactly what the Lodgers Tax sat down, they all agreed upon, they all voted on. And that is with the New Mexico Music Showcase getting $8,000 for promotions. Tucumcari Rawhide getting $13,644 for promotions. Rockin' on the Route getting $18,644 for promotions. Rattler Reunion getting $7,000, and Fired Up Fridays getting $1,350. That's what they had agreed upon at the Lodgers Tax. Now, the argument I had there, and I don't want to even say an argument, something I suggested as their liaison for it to be considered. And as a businessman myself, I also talked with the lodgers that were not only in here, but some outside of the Lodgers Tax to find out how things are going right now. The Lodgers Tax dollars that we were calculating on was what we really didn't do so well on over the past year. The season's still not over, so I was kind of curious, some of the businesses are doing really well, but I want to find out, since the turn of events, as we've gradually been opening and where we're going, how's business been? And a lot of them have been having their best year so far since the turn, not the whole complete year. So I don't want to say it's safe to say that there's going to be more Lodgers Tax coming in September, but things are looking on a better note. So on my own, I sat down and thought I'd come up with some other options because, of course, at the end of the day, after they walk out the door, everybody feels that they should get more money than the next person, and nobody finds it fair. So I came up with a plan B. Plan B, Fired Up would still get their $1,350. Alumni would still get their $7,000. The remaining off of that would have been $40,288. Keep in mind that $48,000 was a conservative number that was given to the Lodgers Tax to work off of. No more than that was given to the Lodgers Tax to work off of. So that's why they were focusing on the numbers they had. So if you split up the $40,288 that's left over, the remaining three events, which are the bigger events, would get $13,429 a piece. So it's straight across the board. There is another option, and this is the one that I kind of was trying to let some people know that we need to consider. And that is, it's not been 2 years since COVID hit, but a lot of these events are going to miss their second try. Now, if you've ever been stuck in the mud for any length of time, it always takes a lot more energy to get out of that mud. And that's something that I want to, I want to relay to the board without putting an emphasis that, hey, this is what we need to do, but I'll try to get them, and I want to pass this on to the commission as well. So on option C to consider would be Fired Up getting $2,000, Alumni getting $7,000, Rockin' on the Route $20,000, Tucumcari Rawhide $20,000, and New Mexico Music Association $12,000. What that does is it puts us $13,000 over what their conservative number was that they were working from. I feel confident with the trend that we're going to that is something that's still going to be covered. Tomorrow morning, whatever we approve, we're not cutting a check for that amount. We still have to go through the process of, this is a reimbursement, not an advancement. This isn't seed money for an event. This is for promotion activity. This, if we go with C, we also have to make it clear come September, that's not, you can't come back and say, okay, I need more money for my event, for promotions on it. So I had a fourth one, but I was discussing things with the city manager, and he actually has one that, I think everybody should hear as well. So I'm gonna let him go over that one, but
Give me that one again, this last one, the C.
the C would be New Mexico Music Association getting 12,000. Tucumcari Rawhide Days getting 20. Rockin' on the Roof getting 20. Alumni getting 7, and Fired Up getting 2,000. Something else I want to add, if the city manager doesn't mind, we had a discussion, and it looks like this is something that's doable, is a lot of them have, at least 2 of the organizations for promotional side have billboards factored in. We're gonna be able, as a city, be able to let them utilize 2 of our billboards, as well as some graphics and vinyls and stuff like that, which cuts their promotion costs down quite considerably. If you look at how much they put in there, I think one was $5,000. So utilizing 2 of our billboards takes $5,000 off that promotion. Yes,
It's a one billboard that would rotate the vinyls.
one billboard? Okay, so we'll take half of that. But anyway, that's something that hasn't been done in the past through lodger's tax, that a billboard was available for them outside of the community. I know they've used billboards inside the community, but we're talking outside of the community. So we can grab a little bit more, and that's not gonna be at the expense of any of the events. So those, and I'll go over these before anybody decides they wanna make a motion, if they'd like for me to go over one of these options again. But I think Mark had another idea, and it was kind of similar to the 4th one I had, but I'm gonna let him rock it out.
It's similar to what you proposed. As you stated, Rochelle and I had briefly met because it's been crazy lately, and we had a number, but I did state that we could fund everything fully if we chose to tap into our cash. Is it a good habit to follow? No, it's not, but considering, like I said, the uptick in the business locally, considering we're going through COVID and we missed a year and we lose some momentum, I think it's appropriate to do so to try to kickstart things. Would I recommend we do that in the future and fund it fully? Possibly not. I think we're all working in a way to hopefully try to be self-sustainable in the future and ask for less funds and try to push out and market new events or other festivals to continue this tourism throughout the year. With that being said, I have gone back and looked at things a little bit more thoroughly because, like I said, we could fund everything 100% out of the promotion side. The thing I will recommend in the future, this is considered a special event funding assistance. There are some items on there that are clearly not special events. I would recommend that the Lodgers Tax Board implement a second application process for funding assistance, excluding special events. We want to make sure we take care of our events first. That's what's truly putting heads in beds. Is everybody justified to get a piece of the pie? Absolutely. The one thing that may be a little bit different from your last option was New Mexico Showcase only requested 9,000. I would not give them more than they requested. I mean, that was the application process. So again, after I went back and further examined, I still agreed to fill all of these requests nearly 100%, with the exception of things that were not allowable per the application. Those should be removed. So for example, with the New Mexico Showcase, and I'm having estimates without knowing exactly what those costs were. It's just real vague in the description. But for example, New Mexico Music Showcase was proposing to advertise within the city of Tucumcari for radio and newspaper. That's clearly on the application, not an allowable expense. So with that, I would cut them to 8,000. Same thing with Rawhide. They had the proposal to, I think, air on the radio as well as the newspaper in Tucumcari. That would not be allowable. After the discussion we had about the billboards, I think it's clean that we run that through our own graphics design that we have underneath under contract. We have a one clean, unified theme. It fits our marketing plan. That way it's a great quality that helps save some of the expense on the event side, on those promoting the event. With that being said, I think we could get Rawhide. We cut the billboard and the graphics design. We take that on, they would get 20,000. Rock and Route 66. In that presentation, there's a clear request for the $25,000, but it goes and elaborates. Some things are not an allowable expense, but Mr. Whitcomb put those in there to show exactly the true value, what goes into running the festival. So with that, I had 25,000, the full amount. For Rattler Reunion, Mr. Clance gave a great presentation. I think when you were involved, Mayor Pro Tem previously, y'all had conducted surveys on people actually staying the night in local motels. One option was for 3 nights, 2 nights, and 1 night. That shows that we're truly putting heads in beds. That's great. With those statistics, just quick math, I think it's justified to fund them the full amount of $7,386. Fired Up Fridays, that is a reoccurring event, I guess, if you would. After going back and looking at that, there was some local printing for local businesses, which was not outside of that 50 miles. And there was something else, I can't remember, but my notes, it just said, I think we should support them and help them out. And Boost, I know they had a line item, I think for $200 or $300 for social media posts. I'd be willing to move some of that funding over to help promote outside of 50 miles. So I had $1,000 for that from their request of $1,350. And then I could go into some of the information on the executive side once we get to that next agenda item.
Okay.
So on Fired Up Fridays, you were only gonna give them 1,000.
Yes, ma'am, instead of the $1,350 because some of the other funding and the line items, it was discussing local prints for local businesses in the area.
Okay.
As well as, I think it was some kind of local advertising. And I don't mind that, but based on the stipulations, that's not an allowable expense. So I think it'd be much better digitally and give them more money to promote outside of taking care of it.
Well, you have a question? Okay.
First of all, you look at the budget, you look at the largest tax budget. First of all, I'd like to thank the board for doing their suggestions. They're dedicated people, very good people. And this is a very conservative presentation they gave us. What we're looking here is at the end of the budget, at the end of the year. So what we need to realize is that if you look at the executive side, we're gonna end up in the deficit, $82,546,000 this year with because every year at the beginning of the fiscal year, the next year, we always start off with a good amount so that we can have for enchantment. Okay, don't forget we still got one payment at the convention center. We also got other commitments that we have, utilities and other things over there. We also have all that we are committed to do. And so we're gonna start with a deficit of $82,000, okay, on the executive side.
For the next fiscal year budget?
After the fiscal year, you see, we start with $600,000 a year, okay? But because we're already overspent, now we got 82,000 deficit. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the start of that budget for that year, for everything that goes on, what happens throughout the year. You're gonna short that 82, we're already starting to short 82,000. We go on to the promotional side. The promotional side, at the end of the year, we will have, I think, about 47,048, practically what you're talking about, okay? On the promotional side, okay? And the promotional side is mostly to promote what Tucumcari and everything and the larger stuff. And so when they start next year with the 45 or whatever they start with, they would have about $111,000 to start off in the promotional side come the beginning of the fiscal year. So I can see the executive side not being delivered like it is. And I think the one that might make more sense is what Commissioner Duplantis says, is that B, because that would be money. And if we're talking about promotional side that we don't have commitment. We have commitment to our executive side. We don't have. You have to look at the budget for what it is, not for what we want it to please everybody. Business is business, and I like to see all these things go forward. You understand what I'm saying? So the one I would recommend that I would support would be option B, the Commissioner Duplantis points out. And only because that comes directly out of the promotional part, because we still got the 47,000 or 48,000 that he's proposing. I would not want to touch the executive side because we're already at $82,000 in the deficit as compared to what we do every year for the beginning.
So
If
Commissioner
we
Moore,
wind up with another COVID or another problem, then we're gonna have, the revenue is not gonna be coming in and we still got expenses. So I think the B option is best or A, but I would support B only because that's promotional. And then the promotional starts, again, next year, and then we can go from there and we can start with clean slate.
so there's two separate things, Commissioner. We haven't even discussed the executive items and appropriating those funds yet. That's the next item.
And that's
I've already
correct.
talked to the financial director. It's 100% feasible to get this accomplished. If we rob from our local events, that's a loss of lodgers tax. That's a loss.
But I'm not saying we're robbing, I'm not saying we're robbing, on Commissioner Duplantis B, he's adding what his promotional events want.
It's not realistic to fund a successful, great event at $13,000 a piece. I don't see that happening. With that being said, like I said, there's some cash rollover that's gonna happen. The reason we were in a deficit, we took some risks on some things that hopefully pan out.
Yeah.
This commission approved those as well, so we have the funding in the cash reserve to make this happen for next fiscal year. It's not gonna put us in a spot, and there's actually state statute
The only
that
thing you
states,
have in funding is
Let
in
him
the
finish.
promotional part.
Let him finish and then.
there's actually state statute that states any lodgers tax received, you have 2 years from the year you receive it to expend it. So we could actually get in trouble if we don't start expending some of our executive side of
We
things.
still got a whole bunch, okay?
So, again, I like to focus on the promotional side, and I leave it up to the commission what to do, but again, that's my opinion, it's my, place to do what's in the best interest I feel is in the city, and I feel, I appreciate what Lodgers Tax Board voted on, but after a second review, I think it could be a little bit more efficient, and we can still do a service to our community, but it's ultimately up to the commission.
Are these events gonna be able to take place, because if we still, if we fall back out of the throughput?
Yes, sir, all of these,
These are for 2022.
for 2022.
They're not for this year, they're for 2022.
The only one that's still in here is the alumni. That's the only one that's still within, that's, the others, that's what I was saying, it hasn't been 2 years, but it's gonna be 2 events that each one is missed with the exception of the Alumni Association. And I also want to clarify, you know, we all know that tomorrow morning, we're not cutting a check for 20,000. But over the time, as long as we handle it, you know, in the ordinance, it states that they're supposed to be refunded at the end of their event within 90 days. Our practice in the past is when they presented a receipt. If we did that, by the time September rolls around, we're gonna have the most accurate number. And we're looking at, if we went with Plan C, or even with the city manager's proposal, we're only looking, I think his was $7,000.
$7,748.
And my Plan C was 13, and that was giving everybody, actually mine was, I was giving a little bit more, I was being a little more generous. But doing that, you know, by September, I'm telling, and I went, I asked all the lodgers that are on the board, and there was a few that was here, and they all specified they're either having a really good year or they're having the best year they've had since they've opened.
I'll be honest with the city manager, I apologize, but I did not understand your proposal, you know?
No, and it's fine because ultimately
We're on the third.
Right.
our budget was very, very conservative. I think we projected these numbers, I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me, I'm just gonna shoot from the hip. I think it was 293,000 we projected for revenue this year. We're only at about 263,000 as the last report. So we were actually projecting a little bit less revenue next year just to be conservative in case something did happen. So again, we may get more cash, we may roll over more cash this year, and we can make up that difference. That's what I'm saying. It's not a big issue to tap into cash this one time for the sake of reestablishing our events.
Yeah, but I think.
But we can't continue that trend. That's not a good practice.
And I think we should, I think Commissioner Duplantis has a good idea, and I think we should go with one of the options. I think, that's the best way and get it over. Or just take what the lodgers, I respect the lodgers tax recommendation, that's why we have them there, they're extremely good if they can do this good a conservative budget. So, I don't know, let's have any more discussion on that.
Mark, on your option, not funding it fully, but what you would put down, I thought that sounded like a pretty feasible option myself. It's hard to do an event for $13,000.
Oh, let's try 8.
But,
Which I have talked to Mr. Lopez.
Oh, did you?
yeah,
Because I don't know, everything you have to rent, everything, don't you?
He does, and he understood the reason why I made the recommendation to make a cut because of the stipulation with the advertising inside, and he thought 8,000 would be acceptable.
I noticed that one of the billboards there, one of the proposals made is less than 50 miles out of town. I thought that was coming out of promotional, and I thought those had to be 70 miles out of town.
Yes, sir, correct, that's why it was cut. On my proposal, the numbers I gave, all billboards, anything that didn't meet the requirements per application is what I struck. And Mayor, I think Commissioner Arias was trying to get your attention.
okay, Commissioner Arias?
Madam Mayor, if I could just have Mayor Pro Tem Duplantis go over option B totals one more time, just the totals as well as Mark, if I could have that again.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I have yours written down, but I have Mark.
option A was New Mexico, do you want the totals for each individual or the total?
For each individual.
The total for each event
Okay.
for option B.
Option B, that would be the Tucumcari Rawhide Days getting, 13,429, as well as New Mexico Music Association, as well as Rockin' on the Route. Alumni getting 7,000 and Fired Up getting 1,350. That would come out to the 48,000. That was the number that was given to lodgers tax.
So how much did you have for, New Mexico Music?
The New Mexico Music, Rockin' on the Route, and Tucumcari Rawhide Days would have all gotten 13,429.
Straight across.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't think, I don't know.
You ready for my numbers, Commissioner?
Please.
So it was New Mexico Music Showcase, 8,000. Tucumcari Rawhide, 20,000. Rockin' Route 66 Festival, 25,000. Rattler Reunion, 7,386. And Fired Up Fridays, 1,000.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Madam Mayor, can I make a request? We got 2 officers from the lodgers tax. If one or both of them would like to voice their concerns or
Okay.
comments.
Mr. Patel.
Either one, Lila's the
Lila or
vice
Mr.
chair and
Patel.
Mr. Patel is secretary.
Technically, we've been shut down for 2 years. We need the money to help these functions get going, so we can get the people in here. We may not have the foreigners, but we're getting a lot more travel of domestic coming through, even at the Palomino, which charges a lower price. And I know David Brenner's getting more business. I know Larry is. I know they are up on First Street, because I check periodically early in the morning.
Thank you for our opinion. Option B is definitely feasible. Something that I would like the commission to understand is that we do not want to deter promoters. 13,000 is a very low number. Something that we at the lodgers tax did discuss was a second round, knowing that there are more funds available. I think that idea is good, because right now we are in the unknown. After our season is ended, we'll know exactly how much money we have to give to promoters. Is a good option also. We definitely, we don't want our promoters to be deterred and not come back. We want them to keep coming back. So option B is definitely, me personally, I do like that idea, with a contingent of a second round of funding available after our season is ended. Just a thought.
Yes.
I agree with Al that, I think that it should be presented, whichever way you choose, that it should possibly be presented as a beginning number based on whatever the final ending comes out with. Because if there is excess, then there's the potential that we could possibly fund more without tapping into the cash so heavily that they would be left with nothing, but still left with something, which is what Mark and I have talked about, not pulling all the cash, but I think it would be better to wait until the year's over and have these as tentative numbers, kind of like I'll say, a second round after the year is done and we have a total number.
And the first event after, with the exception of the rival reunion, because that's happening in August, but the first event, what is the actual date? It's Rawhide? Rawhide, and that's the first weekend of February? I'm not February, I'm sorry, May. Cool.
No, last weekend of April, we had to
Last
move
weekend of
it because of graduations from
Okay.
college.
Okay, so that would be the first event, so.
So there's plenty of time to come back and revisit
What I
the
don't
numbers.
understand is how can you justify giving someone who asked for 9,000, giving them 4,000 more, and then 2 events cutting them less than half? I don't understand that.
You're not cutting any events.
Yeah, you are too.
No,
Rawhide and, Rockin' on the Root, if you give them only 13,000, you're cutting them nearly in half.
Yeah, but his proposal is giving them another 13.
That's
No.
that's a starting number. They can come back in September when the money's all in.
It's all.
And they actually have a better chance of getting what I was getting from Mrs. Audius. Come September 1st, all the money's in, and there's a chance that they could actually request more than even what they're requesting now. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah.
And I'm not showing a favor on either one of these options. I think, this is a different type of year. We've had a different go this year, and, the Lodgers Board works with the number they're given. And when it gets up to us, we know that there's something else there. But if we turn around and tell the Lodgers, you got $150,000, we're gonna have people putting in requests for $50,000. And sometimes that doesn't bring out the best. And, this is why I was like, you know what, let's sit down, let's do 3. I was glad when I sat down with the city manager that he was already being proactive. And, if we go with something other than B, I would not say come back in September. This is what you get, but B, I think we'd have to have a second contingent.
Mayor, I don't know how it's feasible, how we could award more money than was applied for.
I don't either. That's what I'm trying to say. You're giving them nearly $4,000 more than they even asked for.
Well, we can go back to A, just let it go there. If this is gonna be a problem.
No, it's not a problem.
Yeah,
I just,
because let's get real. We were very conservative last year. So a lot of people, we even cut people. We were down very low. Everybody got cut. And I think a lot of people who submitted budgets, this year were also concerned about what happened last year. So either, we're gonna have to help people get their full capability of doing this event or not. And if we don't wanna do that, let's go with A, call it quits, go with A. B is the only option that I can see because we're looking at the $49,000 from the promotional part that I would like to see spent, So that's where I would like to go with.
and that's fine. That's, yes, yes.
As a person who has done an event before, they're expensive and you cannot plan your advertising out with the option of you might be able to come back in September. You can't create an effective advertising campaign for that.
I won't do it.
I think that you have 2 very good events. I would be willing to even give up my money for Fired Up Fridays to help them. We have 2 events that are very good that I think if you give somebody more money than their application asked for, you're gonna lose those 2 events and we're gonna hurt in Tucumcari. Thank you.
Let me clarify why I came up with B. First off, I get tired of hearing, this isn't fair, this isn't fair, this isn't fair. That's why, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't gonna tell nobody, but Plan B was a sarcastic remark that this isn't fair. So if we make it fair, this is what happens when we make it fair across the board. I wasn't gonna be sarcastic about it, but that is the whole idea of Plan B. If we're gonna cry about not being fair, then let's be fair. Being fair across the board hurts other people. Okay? That's why I did Plan B.
So then we should go with either plan B or plan A.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't want to give because I'm a lodger's liaison, I do like the city manager's, proposal.
I didn't understand it.
I thought it
Do
was
you have
very
his
fair
numbers,
across the
the
board.
city manager's
Yeah,
numbers?
it went on and on to this, that, and the
No,
other.
it didn't, no, he gave it right down the line.
That's my
The whole
personal
deal
opinion.
is, I'll be honest with you, I did not get a single call, but I saw the rumor mill going 90 miles all over town.
Oh, I got calls
I
already.
did not get a call because I'm very strong in saying, well, like.
I've had people that called me that said they called you.
I do believe that we've got to do something a little extra for the events this year. Do we do this again next year? No. But I do think this is an exceptional time of year. I do see an uptick in the trend of the driving, and I actually see and predict that over the next 4 to 5 years, we're going to see more cars coming through Tucumcari than has in the past, because people are not wanting to deal with the payment on the plane tickets because they're so high, the hassle of going to an airport. And I like to think that a lot of these young people that think they got to get from point A to point B to experience what's at point B is going to find out traveling is more of an experience. So I do see we have an uptick and it's because of the industry I'm in. I've seen it, go look at my wall, and that determine or will dictate what I'm saying. But I do think this year, the city assisting with a billboard outside of farther out is going to help. But I think this year is one of those years we've got to help, pull out the old Harley and all of us get on the kickstand and start it up. And it never starts on the first time. And because it's basically starting all over again. And for some events like Rockin' on the Route, they've only had one event out here, and now they're missing 2. Rawhide Days was up and coming. It was starting to get some momentum, and now we missed 2. And I have had people come through and ask, whatever happened with Rawhide. Well, not everybody knew that New Mexico was shut down as long as it was. Like I said, Plan B was a sarcastic.
Well, maybe we should do plan B to make them understand that this, city thing has to stop. So, I'm honest.
Are you guys talking to volunteers or not? We are volunteers you're talking about.
Well, Route 66 is a for-profit corporation, isn't it? Yes.
Non-profit.
Route on the ball.
Let's bring this back to the commission. Let's bring this back to the
Let's
commission.
come back to this. Let's come back to this. What we're talking about this. So, okay. So now,
Let's go ahead and make a motion for what the board recommends.
Okay.
I make a motion for that?
for what the board recommended,
Yep, the larger stacks, that's why we got the larger stacks.
do I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Madam Mayor, before we begin
Wait a
roll
minute.
call, can we clarify, I'm sorry, the mic skipped out on me, which option are we voting on?
The first one that the lodgers tax board, suggested, recommended.
That's the one that was in the original commission packet, Commissioner.
Thank you.
For clarification with the motion, would you like to have the individual amounts called out so there's no confusion?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so that would be for the New Mexico Music Showcase, it would be 8,000. For Tucumcari Rawhide Days, it would be 13,644. For Rockin' on the Route, it would be 18,644. For Rattler Reunion, 7,000. Fired Up Fridays, 1,350. And then, do I need to talk about the
No,
executive?
that's
No, ma'am, that's the next
Okay.
item.
That's
All
enough.
right, so that would be that one. Commissioner Orange, do you see that?
I understand, yes, ma'am.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Villanueva?
Yes.
Commissioner Arias?
No.
Mayor Litchfield?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Duplantis?
You do what you think's best.
I'm gonna be here all night.
I respect the lodger's tax, but I do understand we've got to kickstart something. I'm gonna say no.
Okay,
Commissioner Webb?
Yes,
okay, so the motion failed. Do we have another option anyone want to put up?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the proposal as presented by the city manager.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Arias?
Yes.
Mayor
Oh,
Litchfield?
I thought we were gonna call the numbers.
Oh, you want me to call the numbers?
Yeah.
Okay, New Mexico Music, 8,000, Rawhide, 20,000, Route 66 Festival, 25,000, Rattler Reunion, 7,386, Fired Up Fridays, 1,000.
Okay.
Okay, roll call.
Okay, so Commissioner Arias said yes. Mayor Litchfield?
Yes,
Mayor Pro Tem Duplantis?
Yes.
Commissioner Moya?
No.
Commissioner Gamboa?
It's hard to decide. Guess I'll go with no.
okay. All right, now is the executive side. Is that what we do next?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Want me to get that, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
So with that, the original proposal from the Lodgers Tax Board was to fund everything 100%. Yes, we do have the funds that are available. Yes, we would have to tap into cash at some point. Again, after further review, I'm not 100% happy with what I supported at the time, funding everything 100%. We have since had some meetings with the New Mexico Tourism Department. I've had some help and some direction in some other places.
Okay.
And I feel we could eliminate a lot of this expense for these different individual things. So I'll go over what Lodgers Tax proposed. It was 100% funding. Talking Tour was 3,000. Railroad Museum was 4,550. THRI was 14,550, and Fast TV Network was 11,250. After review, again, I made some notes. I looked through things that could either be consolidated and kind of piggyback off of our proposed marketing contract, which will be later in the meeting. In doing so, it fits our marketing plan as a city. It's cohesive, it has good design, we know it'll have great quality. And in doing so, the majority of these requests, not all of them were, the bulk of them were for rat card distribution, as well as billboards. So we eliminate those as far as the design, the continual cost for to rent a billboard for 1 year. Many applicants had it listed as $5,000. I had a discussion with Mr. David Rabels from Sun Vista Billboards after the meeting, and I think he actually brought it up during the meeting. To use one of our existing billboards and put a vinyl on it and remove it as the season changes. So for example, with Rawhide Days, if their festival's at the end of April, we do it at least a month out. We put the Rawhide vinyl on there. When that event was complete, then we moved to the next event, put their billboard up, their vinyl up, and so on and so forth for all these, the big events that we mentioned earlier. I think it's practical. It's only $500 to do that. That's a lot cheaper than the $5,000. You figure if you have $500 times 4 major events, that's $2,000. So you're saving $3,000 off the top. Again, I want to emphasize on the cohesive branding, the same message, the same image. Same thing with the rat cards. My suggestion, I think Connie brought it up, to help everybody out is all 3 city museums, or all museums that are housed in city facilities. They would all be on that same rat card, again, utilizing our city contract. They'd be designed in an effort to be cohesive for equality, and we save money over the top with that as well. So with that being said, I do have some updated numbers on my proposal as executive. It's, again, whatever I recommend may not be the best. It's up to the commission again. But instead of 3,000 for the talking tour, I had 2,000. The other thing I found too was some of these applicants, my assumption, I could be wrong, were utilizing some of the same vendors, or it was the same distribution process, and the cost was inconsistent. For one person, for like 10,000 rat cards, it was 500. The other was 600 and something. Again, if we do it in a bulk order, I think maybe the city could help save some money where we get one consistent, maybe better offer for the rat cards. So as I go on talking tour, they asked for 3,000, I recommended 2,000. Railroad Museum requested 4,550. I switched that to $2,050. THRI is 14,550. Theirs was 20,000 rat cards. It was also the billboard. So with omitting all that and going through our contract, I proposed 5,000. And for Fast TV Network, theirs was unique. It's different. It's a filming opportunity. I requested to fill that completely at 11,250. And there's also some other executive line item expenses. One is a marketing agreement, and the other is a New Mexico tourism advertising opportunity. Right now, through their co-op program, they're able to match us 2-to-1. Typically, that program is a 1-to-1 match. Originally, I presented it to Lodgers Tax as a $25,000 amount budget for advertising. After meeting with the tourism department yesterday, there is some option. They give you a menu, and you get to choose from that menu what you'd like to utilize. We're doing things a little bit different this time around. We want to work with New Mexico True, but we don't want to be that our sole source of the image of Tucumcari, where you see a picture and it's a little tag of Tucumcari. We have strategically chose these things from the menu that are going to benefit the city the best way possible. With that being said, I would ask for an increase from the 25,000 to 26,755, 1755 increase for what we get. I think it's a good idea. And the other thing I do request, just because we talked about combining everything and going through our marketing company to do the design of everything, I'd ask to bump their contract up from the 50 requested to 55,000. Overall, it's a savings. The way I have it in my budget, the overall budget that Lodgers Tax recommended for executive side, including the local applications as well as things I was requesting as a city, was a total of 108,350. By making the cuts and being a little bit more efficient, I got it down to $102,055. That's all I got. Overall, including, like I said, the applicant's request as well as the request I had for the city, Lodgers Tax budget was proposed at 108,350 for executive. My proposal with the cuts and combining things was 102,055.
Okay.
So down 6,000.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're saying on the tourist advertising, how much would that be?
The tourism, the talking tour, which one? The tourism, sorry, the Mexico tourism advertising. Originally, my proposal at the time on Tuesday to Lodgers Tax was $25,000, but after having the meeting with the tourism department, there's one other menu item that I think would be beneficial, and that increased it to $26,755.
Good.
That's not gonna hurt our two museums to go down that much, is it? The railroad?
I don't think so. We'll be able to, like Mark said, combine those rat cards, and we had been talking about that prior to this. We just had not made any formal arrangements. And then I really love the idea of using one of the billboards to rotate through the museums and the events. I think that's a really positive thing. And like the city manager stated, it does help us achieve that cohesive branding look that we've been working so hard to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And THRI, we cut them quite a bit, right?
Yes, ma'am, and that's because they're requesting their own billboard.
I see.
We'll be able to rotate that as well. That's what I said with the two billboards. One was specifically for the events, and one's going to be for the actual museums.
Okay.
That's where I'm misunderstood.
Me too, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought we had discussed 3 for the city and 1 that would rotate.
So there's 5. There's 3 for the city. There's a 2 at Cuervo, and then we're talking about trying to acquire the other one that the railroad was wanting.
I forgot, sorry. I forgot about that one.
Okay.
The Railroad Museum has an existing billboard that has an old vinyl that needs to be taken down. So that could be rented through the city, and it's actually closer to town to advertise the museum.
And please correct me if I'm wrong, because this week has been taxing and we're out. So The one we're talking about, with the Railroad Museum vinyl on it now, was that for special events or that was for the museum, correct?
I don't think, when we discussed it, we had said for both, that would be the billboard that rotated between the museums and the events, so.
I'll have to clarify
I'll
that.
just clarify.
But I think that's, the other majority of the cost was, like I said, it was like 20,000 rack cards. My recommendation at the time, whether it's appropriate or not, maybe I could lean on Robin for assistance, but I think we need to have a well-rounded plan where we're not just focusing on billboards and rack cards. That's a little bit older technology. We need to get up the times. Everybody uses their phone, uses Google. I'd like to see us promote our museums in a digital aspect as well. Underneath the contract, hopefully that would get approved shortly with Robin. I think we can achieve those goals.
Robin, did you want to say
I
anything?
take it that's Robin?
Yes, that's Robin.
Hello, everyone. Mayor Pro Tem Commissioners. My name is Robin Bobian with Robin Bobian Consulting, and we're talking about a contract that would include myself as well as Leighton Moon, that we actually worked on your branding strategy. And that this would be something that would be a separate contract for both of our companies working under me, that we would like to move forward with and assist you with. And I believe on the billboards, we had talked about the one that was at the 96 miles out being one that would rotate with the events as well as the railroad museums. But we had not taken into account the other one at that point. So we would just need to figure that out. But we thought that when the events weren't being shown, then the railroad vinyl could be up on that particular one for the museums. And that would be a good way to market them. But we believe that there's a great opportunity for putting Tucumcari on the map for people who are coming through town, encouraging people to stay for more than one night. Also with the tourism piece, they did make some adjustments in that meeting for us, basically, and that's why there was a shift in the budget, because they customized it a little bit more to be able to maximize our dollars or your dollars. And one of those was using them to actually do some, I'm trying to think how to say it easily, basically some search terms for Tucumcari so that you will come up in the top when people search for places to stop on Route 66 going through this region, that you will rise to the top of the search list and show up on things. And that's what we want. We want people to come and stay and enjoy and stay more than one night. So that's what we're going to focus on, is a well-rounded plan that will have some longevity to it. And they also will provide through MBI with the tourism program analytics. So we'll be able to come back to you with some numbers once that program goes into place. And it won't initiate until September, unfortunately, because of where we're sitting right now. We're going to miss some of the tourism season this year, but it will roll out for 12 months. So it will cover next year. So we'll have some really good numbers of what your visitation and what the social media impacts would have over the winter moving into the spring and the summer season. So there's some great products out there that we're going to be able to utilize and maximize your dollars at a very economical fee.
Good, thank you.
And just to elaborate on Robin's comment, it's a managed search with a total value of $19,814, and our commitment as a city is only $6,605. That's a great tool. Again, I lean on Robin's expertise, and I think this is going to turn out really well for us. This is a very rare occasion where New Mexico tourism actually matches 2-to-1. Since we were severely impacted, our main driving force is tourism here in Tucumcari. There's 2 different classifications. You're either in the 1-to-1 or the 2-to-1. So we definitely want to take advantage of that and improve our tourism efforts.
And Mark, do they have the full numbers in front of them? Because those are big numbers of what that 67% is compared to what the Tucumcari dollars are.
No.
Let me see.
Your amount's 26,000, but the amount that they're putting in to match that is.
It'd be quick dirty math, about 50-some thousand, total value about 78,000.
It's a significant amount of money.
Or
So
$26,000.
it's definitely worth it.
All right, so we need to approve the executive side, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So, on the lodger's tax, their recommendation was $3,000 for the talking tour. Railroad Museum, $4,550. THRI, $14,550. Fast TV Network was $11,250. The city manager recommended that on the talking tour, we did $2,000. The Railroad Museum, $2,050. THRI, $5,000. And this all includes the billboard advertisement.
Yes, ma'am.
So that will help them out.
And the rack card
And the rack
consolidation.
cards, And then on the Fast TV Network, $11,250, the full amount. So option A would be lodger's tax, option B would be the city manager. So I would entertain a motion.
And Mayor,
Yes.
included with that is also the bottom portion, the marketing services
Oh, yes.
agreement. I asked it for the increase for the additional
Right.
graphics design, and then I also asked for the additional 1,755 to the
Right.
tourism department.
I'm sorry, I skipped over that. So option A is lodger's tax, option B is city manager. So I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we, align with, city manager's proposal.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Litchfield?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Duplantis?
Yes.
Commissioner Moya?
No.
Commissioner Gamboa?
No.
Commissioner Arias?
Yes.
Okay, next on the agenda is the transfer of lodger's tax executive funds for non-promotional items. Do we do all this?
Yeah.
C, D, and E? No, we haven't done
B
E.
and C, it was B and C.
B and C.
B is now the marketing agreement.
The marketing agreement with Robin, Bodian Consulting. Who wants to present that?
I'll present it.
Okay.
So since we've been on this whole track of
Right.
talking about what it is, again, it's a well-rounded marketing agreement with Robin. She'll be subcontracting Lake Moon, which did the graphics design for our rebranding. With that being said, the amount will be amended from what was published in the agenda from the 50,000, or that's my recommendation, to the 50,000.
It's the next item.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, it is,
Yeah.
And say sign.
We don't take one, do we? Do we take, okay, I didn't take one. I'm sorry. I was gonna sit here and sign all of them.
I didn't.
You want one? Okay, here we go. Sorry.
It says mayor.
Take one and pass it on, is what you're supposed to say.
That's what I said.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Now, there you go.
So going back to it, this is an agreement with Robin Bobian Consulting. Again, she has worked with us previously through New Mexico Main Street. We currently have a contract with Leighton Moon for graphics design. She'll be subcontracting Leighton Moon to keep up that great relationship and great graphics design. They are the entity that did redesign the logo, the branding, doing a great job. Currently working on a visitor's guide for Tucumcari, which is much needed. The only amendment I had in the contract, like I said, it would switch from $50,000 to $55,000 annually. And with that, I ask for the commission's approval.
Is there any discussion, questions going on? Any of the commissioners want to say anything about this? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept the marketing agreement with I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion that we accept the marketing agreement with Robin Hogan Consulting.
And, let's see, roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Duplantis?
Yes.
Commissioner Moya?
Yes.
Commissioner Gamboa?
Yes.
Commissioner Arias?
Yes.
Mayor Litchfield?
Yes. Next on the agenda is the approval of the 2022 capital outlay submission.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. So you don't have anything before you. We are getting ready, a letter. We are, it's time to do capital outlay again. We are in the middle of a remodeling project, and as you'll remember, every year in September or October, Commission has to pass what's called an ICIP, an Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan. So for 2022, what we had on there was for the exterior doors of the building. We just finished completing the addition and the interior of the building, and we had a balance of over $22,000. And so what we would like to do, and we got permission from Capital Outlay, we will be utilizing that balance of $22,000 for the exterior door, which means that we do not have to put in a Capital Outlay application. So they've changed some things up in the state, and the way they're doing it now, everything is online. So you used to get that thick packet with all the information. Well, now everything's online. So what you have in front of you is a letter authorizing me to go ahead and submit a certification to the state of New Mexico Capital Outlay that we will not be submitting a Capital Outlay request for 2022.
Okay, any questions? No. Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve the 2022 capital outlay submission.
So moved. I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner West,
Yes.
Commissioner Ganova,
Yes.
Commissioner Arias,
Yes.
Mayor Litchfield,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Duplantis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, I think that's all. Next on the agenda is the city manager's report.
Thank you. So since it's fresh on my mind, I'd like to thank Clara and the staff at the senior center. That is a good sign when you do not have to apply for capital outlay because you have things funded. They're doing a great job. Again, hats off to y'all. Appreciate y'all so much. As well as all the other employees. Everyone's been busting their tails to get what's needed to be done. There's a lot of deadlines coming to the end of the fiscal year. Rochelle's been doing a great job. So again, thanks to all staff. I'd also like to make a few announcements. The first is welcoming Scott back to the area. He's our new Chamber of Commerce Director. He brings a lot of expertise and I'm excited to start working with him. And he brings a lot to the table. I'm excited to see where things go. As mentioned earlier, it's tourist season. It's very exciting to see people up and down Route 66 and going down to the Railroad Museum. We're going to bounce back from this craziness we've been living in the past year.
Yeah.
Slow process, but it's exciting to see people traveling the route again and scattering out throughout Tucumcari. Was able to run into somebody that was quite a surprise, was asking if I knew the mayor, and I sure happen to know the mayor. And they do the run for the wall each year and go all the way, of course, to Washington, D.C. And thanks to conversation with the mayor, they were supposed to actually go through Route 66 this year instead of bypassing us on the interstate.
Come right down the middle of town.
Which is
really?
amazing. It would have been awesome. Unfortunately, it was canceled again. But the good thing I want to brag about Tucumcari is we left a good impression that these individuals chose to make this one of their destinations to come back because of the hospitality and the warm welcome they've had in the past. So hats off to those in Tucumcari, pointing out the positives, not always the negatives, and it's good to make some friends and have people come back. So very exciting. It has some other announcements. In observance of Memorial Day, city offices will be closed on Monday. We'll also be closed at the landfill. That includes the landfill. I also want to announce that the library is still continuing their summer reading program. It'll kick off June 8th and run through July 30th. It's for all ages, so it's exciting to get that back up and going again. And last, I want to give a presentation and update from Bands of Enchantment. We've been involved in a few conversations. We have some air dates. It was announced in SantaFe.com, their website, as well as in our local newspaper yesterday. And I'll go over to the TV, and if anybody from the viewing audience wants to view this after the meeting, I'd be willing to do it. But for the sake of time, I just want to show the commission real quick and then try to move on to the next thing. Everybody kind of see it?
Yes, sir.
This will work. It's been a while, so everything fell asleep.
And we didn't.
No, we didn't.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, give us time.
Get
All right.
close.
Get slow.
That's the inside.
That's a
where
two-carry motel.
Yeah.
This is
Oh, I saw the blue lights.
Inside the
I wasn't
road.
paying attention.
Inside the,
Oh, the railroad one, yeah.
yeah.
They were here.
Yeah.
So, it may be hard to read this, I'll read it for y'all. So we have some exciting new updates. Bands of Enchantment airs this summer on PBS. Episodes will be airing this summer on PBS New Mexico, Texas, and Oklahoma on the following channels: KRWG, KENW, KACV, and KNME. This starts with KENW. It'll run Monday and Saturday at 10:30 and 9:30 o'clock in the months of June and July. KRWG on Saturday at 10 p.m., July and August. KACV Saturday, 10:30, July and August. And KNME Saturday, 4:30 and 10:30 in August and September. So what's unique about this, and it's nice, it's being spread out in different schedules throughout the multiple channels, so we get more exposure that way. It's a longer duration. The other nice thing about it is we're able to pick up, I say we, the guys put a lot of work, reaching out all to New Mexico, West Texas, the Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma Panhandle, and even Juarez. It's international even, will be shown in Mexico. So this includes the major cities, including Albuquerque, Santa Fe, Las Cruces, Farmington, Las Vegas, Socorro, Gallup, Portales, Artesia, Tucumcari, Ruidoso, Roswell, Hobbs, El Paso, Lubbock, Amarillo, Cheyenne, and Juarez. So this will also be running on PBS TV stations where they stream throughout the whole duration.
Tell them about the reruns.
Oh, and it's better, there's reruns. The other thing I'm excited about, obviously everybody knows Austin City Limits, what they've come from and what they've grown into. And some of it, the slots are after Austin City Limits, so it may be a little bit late, but some are before. So to be kind of on that same schedule and platform back to back with that show is, I think that's great for exposure. Episodes will rerun on PBS stations in September through November. So again, we're going to be going at least from June through November, as well as all the streaming. It says will be shown, available, streamed 24/7 on the PBS streaming platform. Some new updates. I'm really proud to hear about this. Our New Mexican artists that we had at the Zia Club are now being added to the overall PBS. Before it was going to be online on social media only. So we're proud to announce that Carlos Medina, Micah Thunder, Sarah Marie Rory, and Levi Platero Band have all been added to the episodes on PBS. So what does that mean for us? That's better because now Tucumcari, where we pay for 8 episodes, we're going to get 10. And we get to showcase our New Mexican artists, 2 artists per episode. So that's awesome. The next exciting thing is we have partnered with Pepsi, the regional Pepsi. They are on board for in-store promotion, and this should be taking place in stores, specifically at Lowe's, as well as some of the area grocery stores. With those promotions, the sweepstakes, you can enter to win I believe it's a 70-inch flat screen TV. I don't want to be misquoted. For sure it's a flat screen TV. Signed guitar is pictured earlier, as well as Bands of Enchantment t-shirts. They're still coming through. There's plenty of negotiations, things I cannot discuss at this time, but they are exciting. They're still working on national and worldwide streaming dates. Still talking with RFD TV, still talking with Amazon Prime, but there's hopefully some other things that will come out of it as well. These are some of the press and social media releases. This is the article that was featured on SantaFe.com. I had the chance to speak with Ken today, and he stated that this was one of their most clicked on stories in a long time. So it sounds like they're going to be doing a follow-up article on it. So again, great exposure.
I like the hat in the picture.
We were also featured on myhighplains.com, on Channel 4 of Amarillo, KAMR, KCIT, as well as an article in Roswell. These are just a few. I've been following the bands ever since they came to town, as well as some of their bandmates, friends, whatnot. And they have just been blowing up Instagram on how great Tucumcari was. Many of them actually stood extra days or had late departures because they fell in love with it. So it's it's amazing what this is bringing, and it's just the start of it. Band recaps, I won't go into all of this. I can email this out to the commissioners. It's quite lengthy, but just to give an idea of the caliber of artists we had, I know a lot of them are unrecognizable to most of us. To me, I never heard of any of these bands at the time, but I have become fans of a lot of their music. Brett Dennen is notably Rolling Stone magazine named Artist to Watch. He appeared on The Late Show with David Letterman, and he has had songs featured on TV shows like Grey's Anatomy, Parenthood, About a Boy, and Wizards of Waverly Place. Southern Avenue, I can't talk. Southern Avenue was a Grammy-nominated artist, or band, excuse me, for Best Contemporary Blues Album. They're also an International Blues Challenge finalist. It's signed to world-famous blues label Stax Records. Making Movies is a Grammy-nominated band for Latin Album of the Year. NPR listed as favorite music of 2017 and reached number 3 on Billboard's Latin Pop album. Lydia Lovelace, another Rolling Stone magazine named New Artist You Need to Know. Spin magazine named Best New Artist, reached number 7 on the Billboard chart and appeared on CBS's morning show. Lily Hyatt, Americana Music nomination, Emerging Artist of the Year, Rolling Stone magazine featured, toured with John Prine, Margot Price, Drive-By Truckers, John Moreland, and his Golden Messenger, and of course the daughter of music legend John Hyatt. Junior Mesa is signed to Grammy winner and hit-making producer Ricky Reed's Nice Life label, featured on Amazon Prime's hit movie The Map of Tiny Perfect Things. The Texas Gentleman, Rolling Stone magazine, it goes on and on, I'm not gonna read that. One of the country music's most famous backing studio bands, playing alongside George Strait, Leon Bridges, Nikki Lane, and Chris Christopherson. And BMP magazine declares Florid album, their current album of the year. And we have some profiles as well for the New Mexico artist. Max Gomez, Esquire magazine named his song Rule the World Best New Song. He's from Taos, New Mexico, and is a co-founder and producer of Red River Folk Festival. Carlos Medina, well known locally, born and raised in Las Vegas. Mr. Medina also sits on the New Mexico Music Commission and is featured on Meow Wolf. Micah Thunder, born and raised in Albuquerque, makes Wild Journey music to help others. Sarah Marie Rory, a transplant to Santa Fe, and her new album is making a big splash on the music scene. Levi Platero from the Navajo Nation. Levi and his band are the quintessential New Mexico blues experience, great blues band. Could go on and on and on, but that's the update. And I would like to share and leak the new trailer they have designed. Before there was some, oh man, there's a hiccup. I don't like that. There was a little bit more generic photography and whatnot that went into it. So now this is more specific actual clips from the show. So let me get this going. Make sure the volume's gonna work. Excuse the sound quality, it's probably gonna be horrible because we ain't got good speakers on this. Whoa.
Is it gonna blast us out, or we're not gonna be able to hear it? One of the
One or the other, yes, definitely.
Cool. That little guy in his pajamas was polka dotted pajamas. He was something else.
And that's it. That's my manager's report.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right, so next on the agenda is items from commissioners. We'll start with Commissioner Villanueva.
I just got one thing. I want to thank all our city employees for all the hard work they've done. And gotta ask Mark something about the wind motel out west of town, about all that trash. Is there something we could do about it or not?
Yes, sir. We could, and I'd have to reach out to the chief or Monica to see if there's already been letters or anything, any kind of communication, but, we could start through the process of notifying them and try to get them to clean it up. If not, ultimately, we could send city crew to go clean it up and hold that against the property. I think we've discussed in the past, one particular property, there was a lawsuit, previously against the city, so we have to see. Don't want to ruffle any feathers on that again, but, we could definitely look into it, yes, sir.
That's really good.
Okay, Commissioner Moya?
Yeah, I got a couple of things. First of all, I'd like to thank the task force for the cannabis. They're really doing good work. They have a lot of good ideas. I'm glad to see that, the commission is getting ahead of the whole thing, especially before the commission before the commission that's going to do the rules and regulation. That will give us the opportunity to kind of have a structure, when the other part comes in. And there's a lot of dedicated people on that, and I really want to thank them for their time and effort that they put in. And of course, Commissioner Duplantis, who's leading that, is doing an excellent job on it, because a lot of it is also the intention to see how the city itself can benefit from the new industry that's coming in. And for years, we have a lot of property that is really in many ways idle. And maybe this might be an opportunity for some of those idle properties to become more constructive and productive towards the community. And also some of those owners might be able to be more motivated to fixing up their buildings and selling them, you know. And of course, I know there's a lot of buildings up and down on the boulevard that have all kinds of troubled titles, and if the cannabis takes off pretty good in New Mexico, some of these people that come in have good money, they can clean most of these titles because to them it's not that big of an expense, and they can get their money back out of it. So that's something that I'm happy that you have a good task force going, Commissioner Duplantis. You know? The other thing I wanted to talk about was the fact is, we had talked quite a while back, and we're getting, in many ways, we have a lot of things going on. We had talked with the Command Commission that we were interested in trying to make a decision available for a proposal, hire a person that can write proposal for other grants. I know Ralph does a beautiful job, but he's overwhelmed, and we do need to tap. There's going to be a lot of money coming in from the infrastructure from the federal government, and certainly we shouldn't be missing that. And I think we need to look and see if we could possibly, somehow or other, have a work session on it, you know, and see that before the budget comes out, and maybe we can work something out where we can have that, you know. I think, I know that some of the grants and stuff like that are not available like they used to back in the 80s, but I can tell you one thing. At that time, we had a proposal writer who was an excellent writer by the name of Hugh Riley, and he did extremely good writing a lot of proposals. We winded up with at that time, the north part of the community was completely, did not have any paving, and he was able to get us curb, gutter, utilities. At that time, we had water lines that if your neighbor was taking in a shower, you had no pressure on the following house. And I tell you, this being over 80, let's see, it was in the 80s, so now we're looking at 40 years, and guess what? We don't have that big of a problem in some of our, on that neighborhood, even though we don't have very many people living. We don't have that much potholes. We don't have a lot of other difficulties because that's still pretty fairly new compared to the other part of the community. And I know that they were very good on doing everything, and even Maple Street got pretty well paid at that time with a different type of grant from the highway department, you know. So I think we need to invest in somebody that can try and get us some money, because we have a very limited budget, and certainly we'd like to be able to go forward. The other thing is, I noticed that Mark, you were overwhelmed with the city manager. I call you, you have no time to return calls. And maybe we need to also look at the possibility of either getting him an assistant or an assistant city manager. This is, because sometimes it's important. I have some of my voters calling me and want an answer. I can't get an answer because he doesn't have the time. He one meeting or another meeting, and can return calls, you know, so it's, maybe at the same time when we do that workshop, we can also look on that position, funding both of those positions to help them out. The other thing is, I noticed our public housing are looking very shaggy. When the city had it, we had it in excellent condition. Now the weeds are very tall. The junk in front of the houses and everything else. It just seems like they have now become a typical public housing from other communities, you know. So I don't know.
Commissioner Moya, I'm glad you brought that up. And again, we try to hold everybody accountable. I can't speak on the housing duplexes and apartments, but I know the vacant houses that we signed over to them. Code enforcement did issue them a citation. Come to find out, it hadn't been deeded over at the time, but we do hold everybody accountable, even the housing authority. And I do plan to, I have a message from a gentleman complaining about the weeds. And even though we do not still own those properties for the apartments, I do plan on reaching out to housing authority tomorrow and ask them to please cut their weeds. And
it's looking tacky. These apartments get good federal money. They're not being rented for $200 or $100 a month. And to see them, the shag and the condition they're in is embarrassing. And some junk all over the front. We have really nice. We had the trees trimmed. We had everything else. And these people, not even a year, and look how nasty it looks.
And then I had previously talked with the local director on site, and they were shorthanded. They lost their maintenance supervisor, and they do have resources in Roswell where they can pull people up. So I will be making a phone call tomorrow.
Let me tell you, we turned $800,000 in reserve. They can use some of that to get these yards and fixed. You know, if we're gonna get the other people accountable to making sure their yards are clean, why isn't public housing being accountable? And they got money, because we turned over $800,000 on a CD alone. And that's not including the other part. So they can really get their character and do something about it. So either fine them or do what you have to do. We can go after regular residents and then leave other entities on the side. Right? We have to look at this. I'm not being negative, I'm just being fair with everybody. Other than that, I also want to thank the larger stacks. They do the best they can. They're excellent people. They're very dedicated people. And I hope they understand that we appreciate their time and effort and their opinions. They're very great on doing the work. So thank you for serving. That's all I can say.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem DePlantis.
I don't have a whole lot. I do want to thank the larger stacks for the time they put in, and all the volunteers for all the events for the time they put in. Other than that, I'm not going to ramble on. I did it already earlier.
Commissioner Arias.
No, thank you, ma'am. I had some issues I need to discuss with Mark, but I will do that one-on-one throughout the week.
Okay, thank you. I'd also like to thank the Lodgers Tax Board. We appreciate their hard work and the hours they put in, and thank you for being our representative on that. I would also like to thank Mayor Pro Tem DePlantis and Commissioner Moya for their work on the task force for the cannabis. I know they've put in a lot of work on it and a lot of information, and so I think I made a good choice in appointing you to the task force. So thank you very much for your hard work. And I had some questions, and I wish I knew what street it was, but there's several street signs missing in Tucumcari, and I can't remember because I couldn't tell what the street was.
It's hard for some of us because we already know where we're going.
All right, but for some of us that are looking for an address, there wasn't a street sign. I'll have to figure it out, but there are some street signs missing.
if you give me a list, I could turn it into a police department.
All right, on the Run for the Wall, that there's like 5,000 bikes that would be coming through. Right down the middle of Route 66 in Tucumcari. So I've been trying to contact some of the businesses to get some donations just to help them with their gas money, because these are veterans that are riding to the wall. So I have contacted a couple of businesses here, and even though it was, what you call it, it was taken away this year, they're still planning on next year.
Next year.
Yes. So, also too, I did have a gentleman call me about a problem that he was having in his neighborhood. I did contact Chief Latham, and I appreciate you getting back to me. I did try to contact, Monica Garrett several times, and I haven't heard back from her, but it is an issue that does need to be taken care of. Other than that, thank you so much, everyone. Have a safe Memorial Day weekend, and remember, what Memorial Day stands for. Scott, welcome to Tucumcari. Looking forward to working with you from the Chamber of Commerce. Al, we appreciate everything you do for our city. We know you're very invested in us. So, thank you. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Goodell?
Yes.
Commissioner Arias?
Yes.
Mayor Litchfield?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem DePlantis?
Yes.
Commissioner Hall?
Yes.
Whew.
Here's your books, lady.
Oh, my
Turn this
goodness.
off real quick, okay?
We've been in here 5 hours.
Good night. Chris, we'll see you.